Composition is a huge skill that every photographer has to learn. Over the 20 years, I figured out a system on how anybody can improve their composition. And I guarantee after watching this course that you are going to learn a tremendous amount of skill in order for you to create visual impact with your photos. You can go into any situation and figure out where the best place is to best compose your pictures given the elements that you're given. If you're going to find your signature style, you really have to master composition. It is one of the 4 pillars, I feel, in order for you to create great imagery. So this lecture will unpack all of my 20 years experience in learning how to compose a great photo. I'm Scott Robert Lim, and this is my course on composition. Composition simply is creating visual impact. It's being able to tell your story more efficiently. What composition does, it gets rid of the clutter and boom, it takes you right to the heart of the story. And so if you don't have great compositional skills, then your story is going to be muddled and lost. So let's get into it right now and talk about how to create better photos with composition. Now, when you go to any composition class, most likely they're going to put this darn little spiral thing up and saying, here's how you compose great photos. But let's be honest. When you're going around taking photos, do you see that spiral in your mind and going, oh yeah, that fits the spiral, right? No, what happens is when they teach composition, they take the photo and then somehow they overlay this and go, see, this is a great photo because it fits with the little spiral thing, right? And so really that little spiral, guess what? It's too complicated. I'm going to show you in easy ways how to create visual impact with your composition. And quite simply, you need to see it when you look through your viewfinder, you need to see your composition in shapes, okay? So you see certain elements creating certain shapes, and you simply put your subject usually in the largest shape, not in the edge of the shape, but right dab in the middle. And so what I call that shape that you can see and where you can put your subject right in the middle of that shape is called the Scott spot, okay? So let me show you. Look at this great photo. Here I am in New York, and I'm at Central Park, and I'm shooting this couple. And I look up there, and I go, wow, there's a Scott spot right there in between those trees. Let me put the couple right in there. And in fact, let me pose them that looks similar to that shape. So now you can clearly see that the Scott spot, it's a shape. It's not a spiral. It's literally a shape that you put your subject in the middle of, and boom, your eye goes right to that shape and you see the subject. There's your story, plain and clear. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit more, and let's just use my own vacation photos, okay? Now, I'm here in Hawaii with my wife, and I've got my 2 girls and my nieces there, and we're gonna go out, and I take this photo, and you can see, guess what? It's not a great photo. Maybe I'm not getting inspired or something, but okay, this is not great. What's the matter with it? The easiest way to see your composition in shapes is shooting a horizon, because the horizon line creates 2 shapes. There's a horizon, there's a top shape, and then the horizon, and there's a shape on the bottom. And so now if you see this photo, first of all, it's a silhouette and the shapes are not very clear, but you could see the heads are kind of near the horizon line. And that creates a distraction of what the story is. I want them to clearly see my children. By my perspective, I can change the size of those shapes. And so if I want to put those heads in the upper shape, more in the middle of it, I can take a lower perspective and increase the horizon shape. And so now my subjects can be more in the middle. And so that's what I did on that next photo. You can see I put my camera near the ground and I can shoot up. So now their heads are clearly in that shape. I also repositioned them because it was a silhouette. I made them hold hands and separate to create an interesting shape or pattern with my subjects. And it's a much more powerful picture because I changed the composition. Now they didn't move. I mean, I did move them with the pose, but really I created the shape, the larger shape, by taking a lower position. That is one way to do it, is take a lower angle. Here's another photo. I went to this black sand beach. I had them hold their hands, but look at the horizon. The horizon is right through the middle of their heads. So I have a choice. Do I want to put them below the horizon or put them above the horizon? So in this particular case, I raised my camera so I could make the shape below the horizon larger so my subjects would clearly fit in the middle of that shape. By doing that, not only do I make the composition better, but a higher angle shows depth so I can see the vastness of the ocean. Not only are you creating better compositions, you're telling a better story at the same time because you're seeing the depth of your landscape. Let me demonstrate showing depth. I have these coins here. Now in this photo, how many coins do you see? You don't really know for certain. If you look at it, well, maybe it looks like 3 or 4 or 5. I'm not sure, right? And it's not clear. But if I simply change the perspective of this shot and raise it higher, you could see on the next photo that there's clearly 4 coins there. You see the depth better by taking a higher angle. And so that's what you can do with your photos and your compositions, is you can find that Scott spot, but also one thing to do is to be like a bird. Fly higher so you can shoot down, especially if you want to show a beautiful landscape. You got to get up high so you can see what's ahead of you. Let me show you this next picture I have here. Now this is taken in Italy on the Amalfi Coast. Well, if somebody hires you and flies you all the way out to Italy to shoot in the Amalfi Coast, well, you better show the Amalfi Coast, right? So what better way to show it is to take a higher position. So you can see this couple here. When I had them positioned, I had them in that doorway, that archway there, but there were some distracting elements coming out of their head. So I go, that's not a clear composition. Let me find a spot, a Scott spot, where a shape, where I can put them dead in the middle so you can clearly see them. I have some dark shadow areas there, and that's not a great spot to put them over there because then I would have to add light in that area for them to see, and that balcony was 40 feet up in the air. There's no way I'm going to get some light over there. So I chose to put them in the sun and move them over on that balcony as far as they could go so they could be in that little tiny space so they can clearly be seen. So not only did I find a Scott spot, but I also found an elevated view where I could see the depth of the landscape and the beautiful Amalfi Coast. Now I'm in Hawaii, and here I had this idea of shooting this scene but having a surfer. So I had my friend who was our model for this shoot get out there on a surfboard, but she's never been on a surfboard before, so she had to learn it within like 5 minutes how to operate it. Good thing the water wasn't that deep. But anyway, I had her row out there in that clear spot. So that ocean is huge, right? It's a lot of negative space and you can see her clearly. and you have the beautiful diamond head in the background, and I am taking it. And Scott, I mean, a lot of people say, hey Scott, how did you take that picture? Because it looks like I'm out in the water. I'm really not out in the water. There's a pier that walks out along there. So cement pier, and in high tide, the water actually goes over that pier. So you're pretty close to the water. So I just walked out on the pier, took an elevated view, and I could shoot down on my model and also see the beautiful landscape in the back, but I had to get a higher view for that shot. Now, taking an elevated view is one way to create awesome compositions. Another way is to take a lower angle so you can make your horizon larger, that shape, and put your subjects in there. Again, I'm in Hawaii, and I want to tell the story of what it's like and how it's different at this place that I'm at. And the one thing is different, it is a beach that has black sand. This is the first time I've ever went to a beach that had black sand in, and this is interesting to me. So I wanted to capture that, and I also wanted to capture my family. So what did I do? I took a lower angle so I could see the black sand, and also I had the girls jumping in the air. Now, when you want to accentuate height, you take a lower angle. And so a lot of times with my subject, when I want them to appear larger than life, I take a little bit lower angle so it gives them that hero feel. Especially when somebody's jumping, you want to be below them because it looks like they're jumping super, super high, but they're not, right? And so here I have them jump in the air, but looks, wow, they're really getting some air there and jumping high, but I'm just taking a lower angle and they're fitting in right into that space. Here's another shot where I'm taking a lower angle and I'm creating the space above the horizon larger so I can fit my subject right in there, right? And here I'm taking a picture in Mexico, and it's a beautiful pier. It also kind of gives me some leading lines to her, but you can see that she's clearly in the middle of that horizon shape. Here's the next photo. And one of the things that I look for is repetitive highlight and shadow. And so I saw some repetitive highlight and shadow, but my subject was jumping in the air at the same time. So I said, wow, what a great photo this can be. I'm gonna get my highlight and shadow, but she's jumping in the air. I gotta take a low angle so I can elevate her feet and put it right in that spot where that lake is, and so you can clearly see her legs. And again, I'm taking a lower angle to create my shape. Here's another great shot of a wedding where I found a nice little spot by a huge tree that was behind them. And so I had them, hey, why don't you come over here right in that middle of the tree? I posed them, and then what I did was put my camera on the ground, right? And then shot up at them to give an interesting perspective to kind of set them up, right? So I've kind of had that shape of green on the ground, and then they were in that shape of that tree, and they were nicely, there's no clutter behind their head. And that's the one thing when you especially shoot couples, you have to have a clean background behind their head. So I am looking for shapes that will give me a clean background behind their head. And this angle is a lower angle, and I put them right in that Scott spot, and it was very, very compelling because I also had the chairs that created a leading line right to them. Here's another way to take a lower angle is because when you're shooting on location, a lot of times there's organic growth on the ground. And I love to kind of shoot through things. And so, there's some plants growing up, and I like to use that in my foreground. So I'm lowering my camera position. So first of all, that lower position creates that larger shape above the horizon so I can clearly put my subject right in the middle of it. There's no distractions behind them. It's a nice big shape. Boom, you're going to see my subject. Then I'm using that growth in those weeds that are coming up, and I'm shooting through it, and it gives me a nice kind of blurred foreground leading straight to my subject. And when you see something blurry, your eye wants to go to something sharp. And so that leads your eye straight to your subject, telling a great story. Here's another shot where I'm taking a low angle. And I'm at this old ranch in California. It's in Joshua Tree, a very famous place to shoot. And I saw this old kind of ranch here, and these two little, and it's so old that the gate fell off, right? And I go, oh, wow, this is great. The gate fell off, right? And I actually pulled the gate. You're not supposed to touch anything, but I pulled the gate right into my camera so you can see it. And then I had my subject there where I'm shooting up, okay? What does that do? Now, see what she's wearing? She's wearing orange. Orange and blue really go good together because they're complementary colors. And so now, because I'm taking a lower angle, I have her clearly in that blue sky that sets her apart. So you can see without a doubt, boom, I've got her. And so again, using that foreground to lead into her, taking a lower angle so you can clearly see her in the blue sky, really made for a great composition. I'm shooting a couple here, and again, I purposely took a lower angle so I could put their heads in the sky right in the middle there. You can see the little tree overhang there. I added some of that for framing, right? So I had the ground and then I had the tree, and I put them right in the middle of that space there. And so that made for a great Scott spot. But to get that, I had to take a lower angle. Plus, it made my subjects look larger than life because it's accentuating height when you take a lower angle. I'm at the Amalfi Coast again, and I love this ground. This texture on this ground looked amazing, and I wanted to feature also that amazing sky as the sun was setting. So if I wanted to create a larger sky in my frame, I had to take a lower angle. So I put my camera on the ground, I created a nice shape with my couple, and I clearly put them over to the left, right? And so you can see them against a very clean background, the sky. And to the right, you can see the beautiful Amalfi Coast town, Positano, I believe it was. And you tell an awesome story here. This was her dream. Her dream was to shoot her wedding in the Amalfi Coast. And this captured everything, and it really told the story. And so taking photos like this gets you paid because it can tell a compelling story because you created an awesome composition. So back to New York, okay? I've got this awesome model, and I want to make him a little bit larger in life. And so I put him at the top of the stairs, and I was more down lower so I can shoot up at my subject. And so the reason why I wanted to shoot up on my subject is because I wanted to clearly put him in the sky. And so when I take a lower position on those stairs, I can shoot up, creating a hero feel, but also clearly put him in the middle of the sky. Let's get busy. Get your camera out and let's do this exercise. Let's learn how to be a bird, which means shooting from a higher level down on your subjects. And let's learn how to be a cat, where you're on the ground shooting up. And at the same time, finding your Scott spot. Find your little piece in your composition where you can place your subject clearly in the middle so they stick out, so there's no distraction behind them. And then take an elevated view and shoot down on them, and then take a lower view and shoot up. Okay, so right now, we're gonna go on location and I'm gonna show you how I do that in the real world. Okay, in this particular situation, it looks great if I can get down low and shoot like a cat. I'm using a 55mm lens, which forces me, if I want to do a full-length shot, to get further away from her if I want full length. And so it kind of creates a hero feel, but it's a different perspective shooting really low, a composition that you don't see that much. So let's go ahead and do this. I have my subject with some beautiful backlight. It's very, very strong, so it's lighting her hair up. And because she has dark hair, I could have that light as strong as I want it, and it still won't really blow out the highlights because she has dark hair. So I'm using that light and that sun as separation light to make her pop off the scene. But I gotta set it up. I gotta make it interesting. So I'm gonna take a low angle here, and now I can use that tree behind her as my Scott spot. Okay, Sadie, 1, 2, 3, beautiful. Try putting your chin up and lean back a little bit. I want, not that way, this way. So, there you go. I'm trying to create something very epic feeling. 1, 2, 3. And I love preparing my subject by counting off when I'm gonna shoot, because then she knows exactly when not to blink. Because sometimes, believe it or not, you've only got a couple chances to get a shot, or else people walk by and all that. So I wanna make sure every shot that I get counts, just in case I never can get that shot again. Because you just never know in the real world. I have to take a lower angle to get her positioned right into that shape. So that's why I love my pull-out screen, so I can reposition it lower without having to bend down that much or get into an uncomfortable position. Okay, let's try a couple more. That looks beautiful. And big shit. You know what? That looks good. But let's try putting something like, yeah, there you go. Perfect. 1, 2, 3, got it. Let's do one more. 1, 2, let me make sure you're in focus here. 1, 2, 3. Good. Can you just lean forward towards me a bit? Because I'm shooting a low angle, that fixes the proportion. I like that other pose you did. That one, yeah, that looks great. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. And let's see if I got it. And that looks absolutely gorgeous. Maybe I can do one more this way. Yeah, I can try it. Might as well. Can you step over just a tad? There you go. Perfect. You're killing it, Sadie. I love it. 1, 2, 3. Good. And let me get a little bit lower here. 1, 2, 3. Good. That's great. Okay, so that's choosing a lower perspective, shooting like a cat to get you a great composition. You want to give yourself a routine of shooting, so you make sure you get a variety of shots. So we told you what? Be a cat, shoot low, but what's the opposite of that? Be a bird. So look for areas where you can shoot down on your subject. And in this particular location, there is a beautiful fountain below me. So what I'm gonna do is get my longest lens that I've got, and this is a 135mm. I'm gonna put it at 1.8, so I got a shallow depth of field, and I'm putting her dead center into that fountain. So this shot is a very symmetrical shot. So what you don't want to do is have her slightly off center. You want to make sure your subject is dead center, because that's this shot, this composition is about not only shooting like a bird, but also putting her dead center, because you want the composition to be symmetrical, okay? So I got her lined up right here. I'm gonna put her right dead center. Can you move over just a little bit, like 1 inch? Right there, perfect. She's right in the middle of that seashell that's right behind her, and I got the wind blowing now, and I've got some beautiful shots of her. What I needed to do was add a little bit of light on her also, because the light is a little bit behind her, so I'm gonna add the flash to give me some brightness on her face. So I set just my flash on full. It's just a standard flash, so I could get some great shots. And so that light there is amazing. Okay, Sadie, look towards me a bit. Yep, perfect. And so I like to vary the shots up. You know, sometimes she's looking at me, sometimes she's not. Now, she's very small in my frame because I'm far away. So basically, I'm gonna have to make sure that she gives me something large as a pose. So yeah, good. So be large there, that's awesome. So using her arms and not shooting her necessarily to profile, because she's actually a very slim person. If she turns profile, you don't even know she vanishes. So you gotta have her face the camera almost full on so they're wide as possible, right? Okay, so give me something really confident, straight on. Like, yeah, you can even, yeah, good. And lift that knee up as far as you can. Poke it out there you go. And I want extreme confidence, right? And let me see your elbows kind of towards me, because yep, good, perfect. And so I'm creating a larger shape with my subject, because the subject is so small in the frame that I've got to make her bigger by the way she poses, okay? Awesome. Great. That looks good. One more. 1, 2. Good. Let's try doing something different. Turn your body this way a little bit. And you're going to look down this way. Yeah, there. And I need to see that elbow on the other side. Perfect, right there. And that looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to move over 1 inch this way. That's right there. Good. Let me see that other elbow on this side. There you go. So I'm making her huge. And that looks absolutely gorgeous. Can you tell those people to move over to the side a little bit? Christina? Yeah. Yeah, or right dead in the middle. Right, or they can move right in the middle so I can't see them. Thank you. I'll be finished in 2 seconds. Thank you. Do that same pose where you're looking down. That shot looks so good, and I need to see the other elbow. Yep, that looks so good. I had to make sure I got it. That looks beautiful right there. 1, 2. If I could just get that, I gotta wait for this couple to walk by. 1, 2. Got it. All right. So that's shooting like a bird. Force yourself into a routine where you shoot lower and you shoot higher, and to make sure that you've got some interesting compositions, and you vary your portrait session so it doesn't look all the same. So that's a way how to create an awesome composition by shooting like a bird. Better composition means telling a better story. And the way you can do that is using foreground and background. Let's go back to my vacation photos with my family. And you can see in this picture, I wanted to take a great portrait. So what you do is put something of significance in the foreground and something of significance in the background. And so here, the something foreground, something of significance is my family. And in the background, I have one of the most iconic landmarks in Hawaii, Diamond Head. I want them, 20 years from now to look at their photos because I want them to see that they were in Hawaii and that bam, Diamond Head was right behind them and telling them a story of where they're at. You can use foreground and background to really kind of highlight and give a person a sense of where you are and the story that you want to tell. So let's take some examples. Now, this next photo, I have a picture of my friend. Now, let's look for the Scott spot, first of all, right? You can see she's clearly in the middle of that white wall right there, okay? So that's the Scott spot. I put her right there. I could have taken a picture of her and just kept her there and that would have been fine. But I wanted to add some extra information to tell the story. And that's on the right side of the photo, which was what? I left room in the frame to show that background and that beach. And so if you didn't see that beach, right, you wouldn't really know that she's kind of in a tropical or a beach type setting. And it tells a better story by adding those two elements. So you can clearly see the Scott spot, right? So there's the spot on the left and the small little shape on the right. Each one complements each other and together they tell a story. Here's another great photo where this actually kind of happened by accident. This is in Hawaii, and I had this idea of placing my model. She's wearing this great red dress. She's going to really pop off the background, and she's holding an umbrella behind her head, creating a shape so her head can stick out, right? And I'll just go over that bridge over there, and I've got this great shot of this little kind of stream going to her, and then the stairs leading out. And that's great composition when you have something leading into the frame, into the subject, and then also a line leading out of the subject. So your eye has an in and an out. And so that also makes for great composition because why? You want to look at every single pixel of that photo. And so that's how you create a great composition, is that you are compelled to look at every single little pixel. There must be something there to compel you to look at it. And if it's not compelling, guess what? Crop it out. And that's a skill unto itself on learning how to crop. That's what kind of governs you when you want to crop. It's like, is this important? Does it lead to the subject? Does it take away to it? And so that's how you have to, that's a kind of a learned skill too. And I'll do a little class later just on cropping. But for now, what happens is I put her over there on that bridge, and those koi fish get fed by somebody who walks over on that bridge. And so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these fish come streaming in towards my subject thinking they're going to get fed. And I go, oh my gosh, take the freaking picture. This is awesome. And so, sometimes when you're working hard, the universe just makes its way and provides you for a great picture. And you just get these unexpected, amazing photos when you just get out there and shoot. And so this is one of those instances where it did that. And now you can see in the foreground, I've got these amazing fish. And in the background, I have my subject. And together they tell a great story. Let's go to Paris. So I'm here in Paris, and of course, if you go to Paris, if you get hired to Paris, you gotta shoot the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is so large, you can be miles away from it and still take a great picture of it. And so this is, we were a little bit further off, but guess what? I have my beautiful couple in the foreground. I put them in the Scott spot in the sky, right? I take a little bit lower position so their heads are right in the middle of that sky. And then in the background, I have the Eiffel Tower. You see that and you go, guess what? They're in Paris. When you're shooting an iconic image like the Eiffel Tower that is so recognizable, you don't have to show the entire darn thing. You can show a portion of it and people still know that's the Eiffel Tower, right? And so don't get hung up on showing it the whole thing all the time. You can take bits and pieces of it and it can still look artistic because it's so well known that that story is still going to get across. So here's the same thing. I had my subject against the wall here. I've got a nice clean spot for them. So in the foreground, she looks great. I put a little light on her. And then in the background, I have a partial viewing of the Eiffel Tower, but you still know it's the Eiffel Tower. Now, I'm even going to go even more drastic on this next shot, where I completely blur out the Eiffel Tower, but you still know it's the Eiffel Tower, right? And so I'm shooting it different. Instead of landscape, I'm shooting it portrait, right? And I have this is my cousin actually, and I'm taking a picture of her, and in the background, the Eiffel Tower is being lit. It is blurry, but you still see that it is the Eiffel Tower, and you have something of significance in the foreground, and you have something of significance in the background. Let's get your camera and let's do that now. So, we are gonna go out with your camera. You're gonna go and you're gonna shoot intentionally. Try to find something of significance in the foreground and something of significance in the background, and put those two things together while finding your Scott spot, okay? So if you can do the foreground and background technique with the Scott spot, you're going to have a real compelling story. I'm going to go out on location right now, and I'm going to show you how I do it and do a live shoot out in the real world. And so you can see how I do it in the real world, and so you can get a good idea on how to use the foreground and background in your compositions.